Internal emails from the Biden administration obtained by Axios show high-ranking officials repeatedly questioned how the president decided on controversial pardons and his usage of the autopen. Joining us right now with more on the story is Axios co-founder Mike Allen. And Mike, this was a particularly interesting read over the weekend. This is something that Republicans have harped on, President Trump has harped on for quite a while, the use of the autopen. And I have to admit, I wrote a lot of it off thinking, okay, all presidents use autopens. Your story over the weekend revealed how much more frequently the autopen was used here. This was a situation where 4,245 people were granted clemency under the Biden administration, more than any other president in U.S. history. And more than 95% of those actions took place just in the last 3.5 months of his presidency. What did you find that you thought was the most important thing to highlight here?
Yeah, Becky, this reporting by Alex Thompson takes you behind the scenes almost in cinematic detail in those final days of the Biden administration. But Becky, first, happy Squawkiversary. And I see on that clip you started as the Squawk Box, like the Facebook or the Axios.
The Facebook, you're right. You're right, Mike. I hadn't thought of that. But yes, so, we all evolve.
So, Becky, this reporting by Alex Thompson is a sequel to the bestseller that he and Jake Tapper did, Original Sin. And it shows the chaos of the final days of the Biden administration as there was this mad dash to pardon groups of people. The inner circle of President Biden, desperate to issue a bunch of pardons. He wound up issuing clemency to more people than any president in history. Why was this? On December 1st, in the final days of the presidency, they pardoned Hunter Biden. He got in the backlash for that. So they were looking for other people to pardon. And Becky, many of these people, according to emails unearthed by Axios' Alex Thompson, were not vetted by DOJ. In fact, there were lawyers at DOJ, many of them career, some of them even Biden appointee lawyers, who were appalled at the process that went into some of these acts of clemency, that there were cases the White House said were nonviolent when that was not true. There was a cavalier approach to this. Now, President Biden said in the interview with the New York Times, I approved each one of these that was done, many of them done with the autopen. But House Republicans are looking at this, and what's next? The former White House Chief of Staff, Jeff Zients, is going to be asked about the use of the autopen, and including his own emails, some signed "Thanks Jay-Z" by House Republicans next week.
One of the ones that jumped out the most to me, probably the one that bothered me the most, was on January 17th, just 3 days before leaving office, Biden granted 2,490 commutations, the most ever by a president in a single day. He said that they were for people who had been convicted of nonviolent drug offenses who are serving disproportionately long sentences. Your Axios' reporting found that a Justice Department ethics attorney, Bradley Weinsheimer, penned a scathing memo the next day saying this was untrue or at least misleading. And he listed some of those with violent crime records to whom Biden had given clemency, including a man who had pleaded guilty to charges related to murder after killing a woman and her 2-year-old daughter after the mother threatened to reveal his drug dealing business to law enforcement. That does not sound like the type of thing where every one of these were actually looked into. And if they were, that should have never happened.
No, Becky, that's exactly right. And by the numbers, those record acts of clemency, 95% of those were in the last 3.5 months of the Biden term. Now, as you know, you covered lots of presidents. There always is that rush. But here was a case where the president's own Justice Department was saying, wait a minute, who is signing off on this? Who is approving this? No, these are not nonviolent cases. And that's what Republicans are going to be digging into. And, of course, the Trump White House has made the autopen a thing. You're right. All presidents have used them, but they were more traditionally used for greetings and ceremonial occasions. And in this case, many of them were used in final acts, big acts that now are being rethought.
What do you think happens in these hearings next week? Is this a lot of sound and fury? Do you think that there's anything significant that will come out of it? Do you think the autopin is eventually done away with?
I don't, but you're going to see President Trump make a big deal about him personally signing things. And in fact, you see that a lot on camera. You see him signing things and holding it up. That's all part of the showman in him, trying to draw the contrast with President Biden and the use of the autopen. And Becky, I'll just tee up one other big Washington story for you this week. The president posted about this on Truth Social last night, but this could be a big issue this week. Those arrests in Georgia of South Korean nationals working at a Hyundai battery plant. And companies are going to say the administration is trying to get companies to come to the U.S. And now we see South Korean nationals in chains on TV. The president posted about this last night. He's trying to get ahead of this. He can see what's coming from other countries. And he says, we want other countries to invest in the U.S. But he said, do it safely, do it legally, use American workers, and we will make it possible for you to quickly and legally do it.
We want them to invest here because we want them to create jobs in America. I mean, it's a bit of a catch-22 if you're bringing the jobs here, but they're not going to Americans. That's an issue too.
That's right.
Isn't part of what? But Mike, isn't what's happening here? And I could be wrong, and we got to find out the specifics. Oftentimes, when a foreign company starts or is building a factory or doing or changing a line or whatever, they bring some of their employees and folks from their companies over as part of that.
Yeah,
yes, they want to hire people.
It's an EV battery pack.
But that's what happens because they say to themselves, we know these people, they're experts in the thing. We want them over here to at least maybe train the Americans even on how to do it.
Yeah, that's the practicality part of it. And that's one of the reasons this is a big story this week is this is part of the administration having to say, like, you've promised a golden age of America. We see the stats on your show, on hiring, on jobs, on inflation. What is the plan? Like, how do you get to that golden age? And that's something the president could be asked a lot about. Every cabinet member is going to be asked about a lot. Yesterday on NBC's Meet the Press, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent saying, wait for Q4. President Trump said, wait for next year. So this is something they're going to be pushed on a lot.
Right.
What are we waiting for? Is it going to happen? What's the plan?
Hey, one last other one, because you talked to a lot of CEOs. Most CEOs, some of whom privately may very well be critical of the president. We were talking last week about that big meeting with the president where all the tech CEOs went around in a circle praising the president. Today, and I think this may be a first, Ken Griffin out with an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, effectively criticizing out loud the president and his approach towards the Federal Reserve, suggesting he may be undermining its independence. Is this the first instance of something like that?
I mean, Andrew, you know better than anyone that Ken Griffin has a unique platform and is able to speak his mind in a way that most CEOs are not. I can tell you that most CEOs that you and I talk to behind the scenes very concerned about the president and know how transactional the president is, know that the president sees and hears everything, knows all the issues that they're going to have coming to Washington. And so, like, many CEOs are still trying to keep their heads down and trying to engage with this White House. And this is something that's changed, is that a little bit of the merging of New York and Washington, New York and Silicon Valley, that all these companies want to be seen engaging with the White House, want to talk to the president, and something they praise the White House for is the president talks to them at all hours in a way that past presidents have not.